Good evening, Blackpine. I'm your host, Edward Franklin, and you're listening to Blackpine After Dark. It's Sunday, October 14th, 2007, and the time is just a minute past 10. I'm coming to you as per usual from my attic, and let me tell you it's starting to get chilly up there. Fall is upon us, that's for sure. It's a cool night again today at 46 degrees and a clear sky. I can see the streetlights along Oakmont, and beyond them, the dark line of the forest stretching to the north. The pines are just silhouettes against the sky tonight, standing still and silent. It's the kind of night that makes you want to stay inside, with something warm to drink. Lucky me, my wife kindly prepared a fresh batch of coffee for me. I hope you've got yours too. Glad you're here with me tonight. We've got plenty to cover. News from the week, letters from you folks, community announcements, and I thought I'd teach you something about apples. It's been a week in Blackpine. Let's get into it. Let's start with the news of the week. The town council met on Tuesday evening. The big topic of discussion was the old water mill down by Pine River on the east side of town. If you've driven past it recently, you know it's in rough shape. The building's been sitting empty for years. Roofs starting to cave in places. Windows are broken. There's overgrowth everywhere. It's becoming a safety hazard, frankly. Mayor Hutchins proposed that instead of tearing it down, the town should try to restore it. The mill's been there since the 1880s, back when Blackpine was a logging town. It's got historical value. The council voted to move forward with an initial cleanup and assessment, and they're looking for volunteers to help with the first phase, clearing debris, cutting back the vegetation, basically making it safe enough for a structural engineer to evaluate. The question is what to do with it after that. Some folks think it should be a museum, preserving the town's logging history. Others want to see it converted into something useful, maybe a community center or event space. There's even talk about turning it into a restaurant or brewery, though that would take significant investment. Nothing's decided yet. They're taking it one step at a time. If you're interested in volunteering for the cleanup, you can contact the town office. In other council news, they approved the budget for repainting the crosswalks on Main Street. They faded over the summer, and with the Harvest Festival coming up at the end of the month, they want things looking fresh for visitors. The crosswalks will be repainted next week, weather permitting. There's something poetic about small-town government, isn't there? You can actually see the results of these decisions. A cleaner mill building, brighter crosswalks. It's not abstract policy, it's the place you live, getting slightly better or slightly worse, based on what people decide in a room on a Tuesday night. The Harvest Festival got its budget approved as well. October 28th through 30th, same as always. Setup begins on the 27th. There'll be apple cider, pumpkin carving, and live music in the town square, the usual attractions. If you want to volunteer, reach out to the festival coordinator. They always need help with setup and teardown. Let me tell you, I can't wait for the festival. It's always lovely seeing everyone gathering to celebrate. Every year, I'm reminded how easy it is to lose track of people, even in a small town. You'd think in Blackpine, population 4,500, you'd see everyone eventually. But life gets busy. People work different shifts, shop on different days, keep different routines, and then the festival comes around, and suddenly there's Carol from the library circulation desk, and Bob, who used to fix cars, and that whole family who lives out past the orchards. All these people you'd forgotten about, all in one place for one weekend. Oh, before I forget, Mrs. Doris, I am talking to you personally now. I hope you'll be making some of those delicious apple fritters like you did last year. I think I ate half of your tray. My doctor certainly wasn't happy about that, but what can I say? At least there's some fruit in there. Let's get back to the news. Blackpine High had a game last Friday against Riverside. The Pioneers won 24-17. Sheriff Dawes' son, Michael, scored 2 touchdowns. The kid's becoming a real star this season. That's 9 touchdowns this season already. The team's got another game this coming Friday at Cedarville, and we're hoping for another win. The drama department is rehearsing Our Town for their fall production. Performances are scheduled for the first 2 weekends of November. Tickets go on sale this week. if you want to support the program. The library's starting their fall reading program this week. Dorothy Evans has put together a list of books with autumn themes. Read 5 from the list by Thanksgiving, and you're entered into a drawing for a gift basket of local products. Dorothy's been running these seasonal programs for years, and they're always popular. Reminder from the Sheriff's Office. Daylight saving time ends November 4th. Set your clocks back 1 hour that Saturday night. Sheriff Dawes also wants everyone to check smoke detectors when you change your clocks. Replace the batteries if needed. House fires are more common in winter. The street lights on Pine Street are still out. They were supposed to be fixed by September, then October, and now maybe November. There's apparently been difficulty sourcing parts. If you're walking that way after dark, bring a flashlight. Pine Street runs close to the forest edge, so it's especially dark out there. That's what happened this week. Now, let's move to community announcements. Sweet and Tart is hiring for the breakfast shift on weekends. Saturday and Sunday mornings, 6 a.m. to noon. If you're interested, stop by and talk to Elizabeth. I remember I used to work there back in the day. We had a lot of fun. It didn't even feel like work. Oh, and Lizzie's mom was the best. She would let us have as many pancakes as we wanted on Sundays. Those were the days. Speaking of delicious things, and here's where I take a moment to talk about one of our sponsors, let me tell you about Blackpine Cider Company's new Harvest Gold cider. Now, I don't usually get too enthusiastic about advertisements, but folks, this stuff is the real deal. They've been perfecting this recipe for 2 years, and let me tell you, it was worth the wait. Harvest Gold is made from a blend of Honeycrisp, Jonah Gold, and a touch of Granny Smith for tartness. It's crisp, it's refreshing, and it's got this beautiful golden color that just screams autumn. They're calling it Harvest Gold because, well, it looks like liquid gold in the glass, and it tastes like you've distilled the entire fall season into a bottle. Now here's the best part, and this is absolutely true. They age it in oak barrels for 3 months, which gives it this subtle vanilla note that makes you want to sit on a porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching the leaves fall, and you'd be right thinking, I did that this weekend. You can pick up Harvest Gold at the Blackpine Cider Company Tasting Room or at Miller's Market on Main Street. They're doing a tasting event next Saturday, October 20th, from 2 to 5 p.m. $5 gets you a flight of their fall ciders and a souvenir glass. And trust me, the Harvest Gold is worth the trip alone. Tell them Eddy sent you. They won't give you a discount, but they might give you a smile. All right, folks, back to announcements. The Old Cinema has updated their schedule for the rest of October. This weekend, it's Wallace and Gromit. Tonight and next Saturday at 7, Sunday matinee at 3. Following weekend, something different. And then the last weekend of October, there's a classic horror marathon. Claire's still finalizing the lineup, but it should be good. The church is having their monthly potluck next Sunday after the morning service. Everyone's welcome. Bring a dish if you can. The library is doing Story Hour on Wednesday afternoons now, 3 to 4. Dorothy's been reading Halloween-themed stories this month, age-appropriate stuff for kids. That covers the announcements. If you've got something you want mentioned next week, write to me at P.O. Box 147 Blackpine. All right, I need to step away for a minute here, refill my coffee, stretch my legs. When I come back, I've got something a little different planned. I'll be right back. You know, sitting here looking out at the night, I can see the maple tree in my neighbor's yard. The leaves have turned this incredible deep red, almost burgundy, in the streetlight. During the day they're bright orange and gold, but at night they look darker, richer somehow. My mother used to love this time of year. She'd spend hours in the kitchen making apple butter, the whole house smelling like cinnamon and cloves. She had this big copper pot she'd use, must have been from the 40s or 50s. She'd stir it for what felt like forever, adding sugar bit by bit, tasting it constantly. I can still see her standing at the stove, wooden spoon in hand, that concentrated look on her face. She'd make enough apple butter to last through winter and then some. Jars and jars of it lined up in the pantry. We'd have it on toast, on biscuits. Sometimes she'd just give me a spoonful when I came home from school. I haven't had apple butter that good since. I've tried making it myself a few times, followed her recipe exactly, but it never tastes quite right. Some things you just can't replicate. This town hasn't changed much since those days, really. Main Street looks almost the same as it did 30 years ago. Same buildings, mostly the same businesses. Sweet and Tart is still there. The old cinema is still showing movies. The church still has its potlucks. There's something comforting in that consistency, I think. In a world that's always rushing forward, Blackpine takes its time. All right, let me tell you what we're doing tonight. I got a letter this week from a young woman named Rachel. She's new to Blackpine, just moved here a couple months back. She wanted to know how the town got its name, and that got me thinking. We've got a lot of newcomers in town these days and younger folks, and there's a lot of history here that maybe they don't know, stories that the old-timers remember but haven't passed down. So I thought, why not start a regular segment about Blackpine's history? So Rachel, this one's for you, and for anyone else who's curious about where this town came from and why we're called what we're called. Let's talk about how Blackpine got its name. Deep in the forest, about 2 or 3 miles north of where we're sitting right now, there's a grove of pine trees, maybe 20 or 30 of them, all clustered together. And these aren't normal pines. The bark on these trees is darkened, almost black in places, like they've been charred by fire. They look burned, but they're not dead. They're still standing, still alive, after more than 150 years. Now, here's what makes it particularly eerie, and this is what's stuck in people's minds since the 1850s. It's not just one tree, it's a whole grove, all in the same area, all blackened the same way. If it was just one tree, you might chalk it up to a random lightning strike. But a whole grove? That's unusual. That's the kind of thing that makes people wonder. The official explanation is lightning. The story goes that back in the 1850s, before this town was even founded, there was a massive storm, and somehow multiple lightning strikes hit that particular grove, one after another. The lightning scorched the bark, blackened it, but the trees themselves didn't burn down. The wood underneath was too wet, too vital, so they just stayed that way, blackened but standing. But here's the thing about lightning. It doesn't usually work like that. Lightning tends to hit the tallest thing around, and it doesn't usually strike the same small area multiple times in one storm. So the fact that this entire grove got hit, that adds to the mystery. That's what makes people talk. When the first settlers came through this area in the early 1860s, those trees made an impression. You can imagine it. You're traveling through dense green forest. Everything looks the same for miles, and then suddenly there's this grove of dark blackened trees rising up, 20 or 30 of them altogether, all marked the same way, eerie, striking, impossible to forget. So when it came time to name the new settlement, someone, and we don't know exactly who, suggested Blackpine. The name fit. It was memorable. It captured something essential about this place. The name stuck, and here we are, over 140 years later, still called Blackpine. Now, whether the lightning story is the complete truth, I couldn't tell you. I've heard other theories over the years. Some people think it was a forest fire that somehow burned hot enough to char the bark, but didn't consume the trees. Others claim it's a fungal disease that darkened the bark from the inside out. I've even heard people say it's mineral deposits in the soil that stained the wood. And then there are the wilder theories. There's a rumor, and I want to be clear, this is just a rumor, probably nothing more than local legend, that it was a cult. Supposedly, back before the settlers arrived, some group performed rituals out there and burned the trees or something, nailed to the trees as part of their ceremonies. Dark magic, sacrifices, all that. It's the kind of story people tell around campfires to scare each other. I don't put much stock in it, but it persists. Every small town has its ghost stories, I suppose, and that's one of ours. The fact that it's a whole grove of trees, not just one, probably fuels that particular legend. What I can tell you is this: those trees are still there, still black, still standing together. If you drive out past the Hadley orchards and take the old logging road north, you can see them in the distance. They're deep in the forest, a good hike from the nearest road, so most people don't bother making the trek, but they're there, silent, waiting, all grouped together like they're keeping some kind of secret. When the settlers decided to name the town Blackpine, they were naming it after something mysterious, something that didn't have an easy explanation. And in a way, I think that's fitting. This town has always had its mysteries, its stories that don't quite add up, its questions that don't have neat answers, so that's how we got our name, Rachel. From a grove of burned trees that nobody fully understands. From something eerie and striking and impossible to forget. If you want to see them up close, there are old logging roads that'll get you part of the way there. But take my advice. Don't go alone. It's easy to get turned around in those woods. Cell reception is terrible out there. Bring a friend, bring a map, and let someone know where you're going. The forest doesn't forgive carelessness. That's our first history segment. Let me take another quick break here. When I come back, we'll get to more of your letters. Back in a moment. It's funny how quiet it gets this time of night. During the day, you can hear traffic on Main Street from here, people going about their business, kids playing in yards, dogs barking. But after 10 on a Sunday, it all settles down. The only sound right now is the wind moving through the trees, and even that's gentle tonight. October has always been my favorite month, not just because of the weather or the colors, though those are part of it. It's the feeling of it. The sense that summer's energy is winding down, that everything's taking a breath before winter. The harvest coming in, people gathering what they've grown, preparing for colder months. There's a rhythm to it that feels right, natural. When I was a kid, my mother would take me out to the orchards during harvest time. We'd help pick apples for a few hours, and at the end of the day, the orchard owner would let us take home a bushel. We'd spend the next week making everything you can imagine, with apples, pies, sauce, butter, crisps. The house would smell incredible. Those are good memories. All right, let's get to your letters. As always, if you want to write in, send your mail to P.O. Box 147, Blackpine. I read every letter that comes in. First letter here is from someone who didn't sign their name. Just says, Anonymous in Blackpine. The letter reads, Eddy, I need some advice. There's a woman I see at the grocery store every week. Same day, same time, like clockwork. I think she's beautiful, and I'd like to talk to her, but I don't know how to approach someone like that without being weird. How do you start a conversation with someone you don't know? I'm 43 years old, and I feel like a teenager again. Any advice? Well, Anonymous, first of all, good for you. It takes courage to even think about putting yourself out there, especially when you're a little older and maybe out of practice. Here's what I'd say. Keep it simple and keep it genuine. Next time you see her, just say hello. Not with any big agenda, just a friendly hello. If she's picking out apples, you could mention you heard about the Honeycrisp variety on the radio. Shameless plug, I know. Or ask if she's tried the local honey they stock. Something easy, something natural. You're not asking her to marry you, you're just being friendly. If she responds well, if she seems open to conversation, then you can introduce yourself. Tell her you see her here every week and want her to say hi. Be honest. Women appreciate honesty a lot more than some elaborate pickup line. And if it doesn't go well, if she's polite but clearly not interested, then you smile, you say, have a good day, and you let it go. The worst thing you can do is push when someone's not interested. Respect is attractive. Desperation isn't. But I have a feeling you'll be fine. 43 isn't too old to meet someone new. And the fact that you're nervous about it actually works in your favor. It means you care, and that's a good thing. So take a breath, say hello, and see what happens. Good luck. Next letter. This one's from someone named Linda. Linda writes, Eddy, I've been married for 18 years. I love my husband. I really do. But lately it feels like we're just roommates. We go through the motions. Work, dinner, TV, sleep, repeat. I can't remember the last time we had a real conversation or did something fun together. How do you bring the spark back after this long? Or is this just what marriage becomes? Linda, first off, what you're feeling is completely normal. A lot of couples go through this, especially after many years together. Life gets busy, routines set in, and before you know it, you're coexisting instead of connecting. That doesn't mean the love is gone. It just means it needs attention. Here's what I'd suggest. Break the routine. Do something different together. It doesn't have to be expensive or elaborate. Go for a drive out to the orchards and watch the sunset. Have a picnic. Go to the old cinema and watch a movie you'd never normally pick. Cook dinner together instead of in shifts. The point is to create a moment where you're both present and engaged, not just going through the motions. And talk to him, not about bills or schedules or who needs to fix the porch step. Talk about how you're feeling. Tell him you miss feeling connected. My guess is he might be feeling the same way and just doesn't know how to say it. Marriage is work, Linda. It's not always fireworks and romance, but that doesn't mean it has to be boring. It just means you have to put in the effort, both of you, and 18 years is worth fighting for. Next letter is from someone who signed it, Confused Neighbor. Eddy, my neighbor plays his music too loud every Saturday night. I've tried talking to him about it twice now, and he always apologizes and says he'll turn it down. But the next Saturday, it's loud again. I don't want to call the sheriff and make it a big thing, but I also want to sleep. What do I do? Confused neighbor, this is tricky because you've already tried the polite approach and it didn't work. Some people just don't take hints, or they forget, or they genuinely don't realize how loud their music is. Here's what I'd do. Write him a note. Sometimes putting things in writing makes it feel more official. Be polite but clear. Say something like, I've mentioned this before, but the music on Saturday nights is too loud and it's affecting my sleep. I'd really appreciate it if you could keep the volume down after 10 p.m. Thanks for understanding. Leave the note on his door on a Friday so he sees it before Saturday. If that doesn't work, if the next Saturday the music is still loud, then call the sheriff's office. That's not being dramatic. That's enforcing a reasonable expectation. You have a right to peace and quiet in your own home. Sheriff Dawes is good about handling neighbor disputes without making things ugly. He'll talk to your neighbor, explain the noise ordinance, and that'll probably be the end of it. Next letter is from somebody named James. James writes, Eddy, I'm 17, and I've been dating this girl for 6 months. I really care about her, but I think she's starting to lose interest. She doesn't text back as fast as she used to. She's always busy when I ask to hang out, and when we do see each other, she seems distracted. Should I ask her what's going on or just give her space? I don't want to be clingy, but I also don't want to lose her. James, this is tough. At 17, everything feels bigger and more intense than it probably is, but that doesn't make it hurt any less. Here's my take. You should talk to her. Not in an accusatory way, not making demands, just honest communication. Say something like, hey, I feel like things have been different between us lately. Are we okay? Give her the space to be honest. Maybe she is losing interest, and if that's the case, it's better to know now than to spend weeks wondering and worrying. Or maybe she's dealing with something else, stress at school, family stuff, who knows? And it has nothing to do with you. Either way, you deserve clarity, and if she is pulling away, as much as it'll hurt, you let her go. You're 17. You've got your whole life ahead of you. I know that sounds like something old people say to brush off your feelings, but it's true. 6 months feels like forever at your age, but it's not. And James, here's the thing. If she's the right person, you won't have to chase her. She'll want to be with you as much as you want to be with her. If you're constantly wondering if she cares, that's your answer right there. One more letter here. This one's from Dorothy at the library again. Dorothy writes, "Found reading glasses last week, brown frames, blue case. Also, please return overdue books. No fees, just bring them back." Dorothy keeps it short. If you're missing those glasses, you know where to go. And return your books, people. Let me take one more break. When I come back, I'll teach you something about apples, and then we'll wrap up for the night. You're listening to Blackpine After Dark. I'll be right back. The temperature's dropped a couple degrees since we started. I can see my breath when I lean close to the window. By morning, there'll probably be frost on the grass, that first real frost of the season. The leaves will be slick and shiny with it, crunching underfoot. Winter's coming, whether we're ready or not. Before we wrap up tonight, let me teach you something about apples. This has become a regular part of the show, and I hope you folks are learning something. Tonight's topic is the Honeycrisp. If you've been to the orchards around here in the past 10 or 15 years, you've seen Honeycrisps everywhere. Bright red and yellow skin, incredibly crisp, sweet, and juicy. They've become one of the most popular apple varieties in the country. But here's what most people don't know. The Honeycrisp is actually pretty new. It was developed at the University of Minnesota in the 1960s as part of their apple breeding program. Researchers were trying to create an apple that would stay crisp even after months in cold storage. Most apples get mealy or soft after a while, but the Honeycrisp holds its texture remarkably well. The apple wasn't released to the public until 1991. That's right, this variety that seems like it's been around forever is only about 16 years old commercially. Compare that to a Granny Smith, which has been around since the 1860s, or a Macintosh from 1811. The Honeycrisp is practically a baby in apple terms. So what makes it so crisp? It's all about cell structure. Honeycrisp apples have larger cells than most other varieties. When you bite into one, those cells rupture with a very satisfying crunch. It's like biting into a water balloon, but in the best way possible. The flavor is balanced too, sweet but with just enough acidity to keep it interesting. The name describes exactly what it is: honey, sweet and crisp. Simple, accurate. The University of Minnesota researchers knew they had something special, and they named it accordingly. Orchards around here started planting Honeycrisp trees in the late 90s and early 2000s. It takes a few years for apple trees to mature and start producing fruit, so the first local Honeycrisps probably hit the market around 2003 or 2004. Now they're one of the top sellers during harvest season. People specifically ask for them. The downside? Honeycrisps are more difficult to grow than a lot of other varieties. The trees are somewhat fragile, susceptible to certain diseases, and the apples themselves bruise easily. That's why they're usually more expensive than other apples. The labor and care required to grow them successfully drives up the cost. But for a lot of people, myself included, it's worth it. So next time you bite into a Honeycrisp, remember, you're eating the result of decades of agricultural research. Scientists working to create the perfect apple for modern tastes and modern storage technology. It's a neat example of how food science and traditional agriculture come together to create something delicious. If there's a particular apple variety you want to know more about, or if you've got apple-related questions, write to me. I'm always happy to talk apples. It comes with the territory when you live in a town called Blackpine. That's it for our apple fact of the day. Don't worry, there'll be another one next week. October is my favorite time of year in Blackpine. There's something about autumn here, the way the light changes, the way the air smells, the colors in the orchards. It's beautiful. Melancholy maybe, but beautiful. I drove past the Hadley orchards yesterday afternoon. The trees were heavy with apples, reds and greens and yellows, catching the late light. Workers were out there with ladders and picking bags, moving methodically through the rows. You could hear the sound of apples dropping into bags, workers calling to each other, a radio playing somewhere in the distance. And beyond all that, the forest, the dark line of pines to the north, silent and still. So, folks, that's it for our show today. We'll be back next Sunday for another one, of course. Until then, take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Go to the cider tasting next Saturday, if you're so inclined. Check out Wallace and Gromit at the Old Cinema, or just stay home and enjoy the quiet. Whatever feels right. Thank you for listening tonight. This is Eddie Franklin, and you've been listening to Blackpine After Dark on KBPN 104.7 FM. Good night, Blackpine. I'll see you next Sunday.